activities. I'm not necessarily going to be recording that because it's going to become too many megs and it's just going to be a little bit insane. So great, we are actually on Learning Unit 4 and we're on the second part of Learning Unit 4. I think we'll actually finish Learning Unit 4 today. We talked about e-governance in the last lecture. So I will try my best by this week to put up the lecture recordings for everything up until this point so that you guys will have all of that. So what we're going to basically do today is we are going to expand on what we was talking about the last time in terms of e-governance. We're going to look at, we are going to assess the challenges in e-government for this part of the lecture, and we're going to recommend emerging technologies suitable for use in the public sector and e-government. So we are going to definitely finish this part like today. What we're also going to do is we are going to look at small, medium enterprises as well. And I think we will actually end up finishing that section and I'll give you guys an activity. So just exactly like how all of our lectures are going. So yeah, without further ado, let me just start that. I just want to double check that I've got the sharing done correctly. Okay, there we are. Okay, I think all is good. You guys can see my screen. Guys, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So let us begin. So in terms of our challenges in e-government, I'd like to use South African examples again. So we've got interoperability, and this is basically the ability of your different government systems to talk to each other or to share information with each other rather. So if I want to draw your attention here to eNaTIS, and if you've never heard of this before, I would suggest that you do Google it because it's a project that cost 597 million rands, and the aim of it was to basically bring all the data of all the motor licensing bureaus in the whole country to be in one centralized database. And yeah, if you check out the website, you can pretty much figure out what happened in that scenario over there. So what was supposed to happen was by now, we would have been able to log on to the eNaTIS website. We would have hopefully been able to register an account, and we would have been able to request a driver's license test or a learner's license test from pretty much anywhere in the country. So this was the aim, for it to be centralized such that all this information was in one central database, and you would be able to request learners' licenses online. You would be able to request information on your driver's license online. It was meant to do a whole host of things, and that didn't quite happen. But that would be what interoperability would be. If you are sitting in Pretoria and you want to book a learner's test in Durban, you would be able to log on to the eNaTIS website, register an account, book your test on a certain day at a certain time in Durban. So yeah, we know that that's not the process with booking your driver's license or your learner's license right now. So of course, I wouldn't say the project was a complete fail, but it didn't get to this level as yet. We've also got trust and security. And of course, if you are providing a government to consumer service or government to business service, you need to have security and trust, and especially with your data, because you are dealing with sensitive information. You're dealing with citizens' information. And of course, what really made me very uncomfortable was we went to the Home Affairs website and we saw this. So it doesn't really inspire much confidence. So of course, if somebody sees that and they're thinking of applying for a smart ID online, they are going to have second thoughts because where is your information going to go? Moreover, where is your money going to go when you get to the payment stage? So, of course, those are important things to consider. We've also got the use of consultants. And moreover, or more often than not, rather than using people within a business, people use consultants because they would have specialized skills. So a lot of people would say the disadvantage of having a consultant would be that your current staff don't have the knowledge and you are not upskilling them to have that specific knowledge. So people can see that as a bit of a disadvantage. I personally don't. So yes, but they do say that that is a challenge in e-government according to your textbook. You've got the use of consultants, so it of course takes skills away, or um, not you're not providing for your localized IT department to have that level of skill, or not training them rather. Okay, before I move on with regards to these three anyway, we might have all the trust and security in the world instilled in our government systems, ATO, Inatus, Home Affairs website, but the thing is, we are not confident based on the service provided by, or lack of service thereof, of the government in so many of these areas. So I think for us, this more could be a psychological thing more than something that they probably did or did not do. So yeah, there's so many ways to look at this. Use of consultants, as I said, I don't agree with it being really a challenge. I guess in some ways they could say, yeah, if you use consultants in certain areas, it takes skills away, or you're not upskilling your own staff at a level. But this in IT is predominant because if you're in IT, this is what you eventually want to become. You want to become a consultant with specialized knowledge, because that would give you the competitive edge. But I guess, of course, if you are then a business and you're dependent on these consultants, that could be a bit difficult if your own staff don't quite have the same set of skills as them. But again, IT is quite vast, so there are places that you can have such specialist knowledge, you won't be able to have your own staff with that type of knowledge. So yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword really on that one. So we're going to just move on a bit and talk about emerging technologies that probably assist with e-government or have assisted with e-government. In terms of emerging technologies in e-governance, we've got m-government, which is mobile government, because of course of the ubiquitous nature of mobile devices at the moment. And this basically has brought about such a change in terms of reach, in terms of getting so much more of the public to be able to embrace e-governance. And the way you can harness m-government or mobile devices to provide information to the public, well, one way is you can basically have situations where you can offer immediate and direct access to time-sensitive information. So for an example of this would be a flood warning. You can also reduce the digital divide uh, because of your widespread access of mobile technologies. So where there were situations where people couldn't access landlines, for example, they can now do that with their mobile devices. So you can basically provide so much more services to those parts of the population where you couldn't reach before. They would have so much more access to information. So that would be another example of where you could use m-government. There is a few that they do list in your textbook. Web 2, they say, harnesses the web in a more interactive and collaborative manner, and we know this with social media. So if you look at Web 2 technologies, it would be your blogs, it would be your Facebook groups, it would be podcasting, all types of social networking, actually, not just Facebook. But you would be able to harness information in a better way. So a lot of people get information from Twitter for your coronavirus stats updates. Think of how much we use social media to access this type of information issued by the government, especially in this time. If you think of our very trying time since the lockdown up until now, most of our access, especially addresses from the president and the Minister of Health updates, we are basically going on social media to find all of these updates. We're not necessarily going to the government website. So Web 2 is playing quite a big part in us getting that very important information. There's also many organizations that have started to use e-reverse auctions to achieve direct cost reductions of externally sourced goods. So in ERAs, buying organizations invite pre-selected suppliers who compete against each other to supply a specified good or service, thus driving down the supply price through direct competition. And of course, they get quite a nice cost reduction or cost saving rather. And your potential savings can range between 5% to 30%, or even more in some cases. Okay, so e-reverse auctions also, it's very much similar to your tender process where your suppliers are basically competing against each other for some sort of government funding in a way. So yeah, I mean, of course, E means we now do it online, I suppose. So yeah, we've got these emerging technologies which are not really new. I mean, Web 2.0 has been around for probably over 10 years now, way over 10 years. Mobile government, that's a bit more new. Pretty much with the emergence of smartphones, we could obviously access more information. But my issue then with this point over here is, yeah, we could have the most amazing mobile government setups in terms of the government being very active on Twitter, which it is. I mean, all the ministers are on Twitter, and all of us are pretty much looking at the health minister's Twitter page all the time now to see the coronavirus stats. However, if you're in areas where your infrastructure is so bad that you're not getting cell phone signal often, both of these pretty much fall away. So there's a lot to think about, especially I think it's interesting that we're living in the country that we are living in because we can pretty much happily talk about these things. So from you guys, how many of you guys have used Twitter? Do you guys use Twitter?
Nope.
No, it's a strong nope.
Nope.
Why?
It's not necessary.
It's not.
Like there's other things. Like why would we use Twitter? Like we have
Because
no
of
reason. We're
no,
we're introverted little flowers, and we just want to use WhatsApp. It's fine. We have small friends. We don't need the entire world knowing that. Hey, I'm eating a sandwich right now. How about you?
but I mean, like, you know, for updates on, let's say, what the president's office is saying or what anybody is saying, what famous people are saying.
That's why Reddit is there. They make memes about
Yeah.
it, and then we hear about it.
Now Reddit is something I think that a lot of us are actually on.
Yeah.
You guys are the more controversial ones, then I say.
But
That makes
it's
sense.
funny though.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, so do you guys watch any of those live presidential feeds that we have every time Cyril says something? We on lockdown level 2, lockdown level 3. Have you guys seen those speeches?
Yeah.
Oh
We
yeah.
watch them on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So I guess at a level they could say YouTube is a form of Web 2.0 because, of course, it's an interactive platform.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but um, they say that you could see the live stream over here and they have like a link, and then you click on the link, and of course, the president is like never on time. So the comments you get are insane. There's like a
You
whole
always have to look at the comments.
the, co- the comments about how he is not on time. I think this discussion goes on for over 15 or 20 minutes, and I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Can't they just wait?
Nah, but it's funny.
It is funny,
The
guys.
jokes are too good.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we don't make terrible use of these. I think our government so far is doing a reasonable job making use of government and Web 2.0. We don't really have too many flood warnings, storm warnings, all of that sort of thing. But I mean, I suppose, yeah, Twitter would be the main place for information like that if any of that would happen. Yeah, so guys, we are pretty much done with the part of this module that deals with e-governance. We're going to move on a bit to small, medium enterprises. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the role of small, medium enterprises, or as they say, SMEs, because they're just so prevalent now. Pretty much most of your Instagram businesses that you see are SMEs. Okay, people in your class have SMEs, right? So we're going to look at the drivers and inhibitors of small medium enterprises. And also we're going to evaluate the emerging technologies adopted by small medium enterprises. And I think the sad thing about this point over here is they do adopt technology, but in a really sort of like limited way, which we are going to see pretty much with the rest of the section over here, because we are going to look at one or two of these websites, especially for your class activity. In general, definition of SMEs or small medium enterprises relate to combinations of the following: the number of employees, the turnover, the notion of a small medium enterprise as an independent entity. So basically, if we have to look at the categories, it's usually staff headcount, turnover, and or balance sheet total. So we are going to look at a South African small medium enterprise, and we are going to look at several factors that make small medium enterprises distinctive. So I'm taking the example of Fred Footwear, which is a South African company or a South African small medium enterprise, and basically they deal with manufacturing. So their nature of business is footwear and apparel. Their annual turnover is 7.5 to 10 million rands. They're situated in the Eastern Cape, and the company designs, manufactures genuine leather footwear products for men, women, and school kids. In addition, the company is able to accommodate both small and large manufacturing requests. It also maintains a workforce which comprises of skilled, semi-skilled, as well as physically disabled labor. This is what their website looks like. So I was a little bit disturbed that the URL indicated that it was not secure, but it's actually okay because you're not going to be transacting online with this particular website. This website is basically, the purpose is to showcase their team, showcase their catalog, talk a little bit about their business. So it's quite an informative website. However, step forward would be, of course, if they could take online requests, and of course if you could order online, but this doesn't seem to be the case. But in any case, this would give you a bit of a flavor or a bit of a idea rather of what this website would look like, and it would give you an idea about the size and types of businesses you would get for small medium enterprises. Yeah, let's actually look at it in a bit more detail. Let me try and find it. Well, they give me the URL anyway, so I shouldn't be so. That's it. Redfootwear.co.za. Okay, cool. They've changed it a little bit. Okay, guys, what do you think of the site?
I want to argue that it's not consistent.
You'd, oh, you mean from the homepage?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think
Not bad,
I don't think they really got a professional to do this particular website. I think it was pretty much,
Is that a
yeah.
meme?
What? What?
Oh,
Where?
no, it's a website. Oh,
It's
sorry.
I like this part over here. They say ask Fred, and then we just get
Brings you up.
to the contact page.
Obviously, the Adobe.
I
Flash
do not
is
enjoy those buttons.
You don't know?
Nah, those buttons ain't it. I don't know who approved on it, but they should get fired.
Well, it is a small, medium enterprise.
I don't care. Those
So we
buttons ain't it.
So I like this part over here. They have news. Oh. But then I don't like the fact that it's like May 2007. That's not good.
Outdated as well.
I mean, yeah, it's like, I think the site's more an info site. It's not really an interactive one, but I still think they could have done a little bit better with it. What would you guys have added if you guys were part of this business to the website? What would you have done differently?
Better buttons.
Better buttons?
Okay, I have to actually agree with Shonda. All of the buttons are inconsistent and they change all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, besides the aesthetics, right? What would you add to expand their business?
I would
First
add
of all-
clickjacking. Yes.
Lovely. Somebody did APDS at some point very soon.
As
Some
well as,
XSS stuff.
Yeah, access
and
cross-site scripting.
Yes, that too.
also
We
permission
remember-
keys to make the
Yes.
site actually safe.
But by the way, guys, I'm going to showcase your guys' APDS projects to the first years today.
Oh no.
No, I have
That's
to-
a big
No, I
yikes.
have
That's a big
Take
yikes.
the best ones, please.
Oh, please, yeah, not on mine. Mine was kind of like mine. I didn't even run at the end because I didn't have my Windows is wiped.
Oh gosh. No,
If it didn't give me a syntax error, it ran. Okay.
I'll show them the working ones or the
Thank
working
you.
parts. Guys, I want to show them how you guys implemented security. Basically, yeah. So, yeah, I think a step forward, of course, for this business over here definitely would be if they could do the selling online, right? I mean, if you take a look at them, really speaking, they're doing it really well. I mean, they're making about 10 million bucks a year. Okay, but then they do have about maybe around, I think, I don't actually know how much of staff they have. They don't really give a number. So if they have like maybe 100 people in this business, and of course they need materials for the shoes and stuff, is the turnover really then that much? I mean, is the actual profit actually that much? The turnover is the sales. Yeah. Would you guys invest in this business?
I wouldn't because of the high risk factor of it.
High
Personally,
risk
I
factor?
wouldn't.
Okay. Talk to me about that. Why do you say it's high risk?
Because you have inventory and you have stock. So if you have a shoe that's already made out of leather and it becomes like old, or not old, because leather doesn't age. Well, it does, but really slowly. But I mean, like, once the shoe style becomes old, no one wears that anymore. Like those open
Out of
sandals.
fashion.
It's when it's out of
True.
fashion, then you basically lose that part of inventory, or it sells really slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also you still need to, while that inventory is selling really slowly, you still need to pay all your rent for all your stores. Personally, I would invest into an online business because of its risk factor that's so low.
Mm-hmm. So if this
So,
turned into a more online business, would you then consider investing in it? No.
still not, because the capital that's required to buy the shoes or to make the shoes would be too large to actually, you need a large amount of capital at the beginning of the project to be able
Mm.
to, yeah.
Yeah,
Jenny, why are
makes
you
sense.
doing Jenny, why are you doing IT and not accounting?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great to be so business minded. It's awesome. So, yeah, Fred Footwear, yeah, you guys are going to see another business later on. We're going to evaluate a little bit as well. But yeah, this very typical example of a small, medium enterprise. The key thing about small, medium enterprises are they mostly are owned by families, right? So it's like either a family business or that's been in the family for probably generations and stuff. So they still make obviously a very decent profit. Um, However, they're not really competing as much with your large scale enterprises because their demographic is slightly, I would say, different. But yeah, let's move on. We're going to talk about why SMEs are important. Why are small medium enterprises important? Well, they are responsible for employing on average between 60 to 70% of the workforce. SMEs play a leading role in the development of new technologies and the creation of innovative products, and often stimulate productivity growth amongst rival businesses. Their dynamicism can thus stimulate competition and innovation throughout the economy as a. Okay, so I'm gonna. Whoopsie. So SMEs basically are the people that you pretty much are eventually going to work for. So responsible for employing between 60 to 70% of the workforce. It makes sense because there are big companies that are going to employ set amounts of people. So you would see banks would have graduate programs. You would see KPMG or big accounting firms that'll also have graduate programs. And that's pretty much the main way you guys would get into big companies, right? I mean, in terms of the IT job market, if we look at the two IT companies we have in Durban, which basically we always talk about, we have Tukana, we have Dorofco. There might be others that are coming up that have an international backing to them as well. I think I forgot what the one was called, but anyway, it was very affiliated with Google. So you're not going to get huge numbers of people that they are employing all the time. So on average, a big company is going to employ maybe 20 graduates per year or less. So where is the rest of the people going? Okay, the rest of the people are going to be employed by your SMEs, or they would be part of their family's small medium enterprise. So if you have a family business, that's pretty much what you would go into if you don't get a job. So SME is important because they do employ a large part of your workforce. They also play a leading role in the development of new technologies, I suppose. Okay, not with the ones we've seen. Well, we only saw one so far. We saw Fred Footwear. So the key thing about SMEs generally is their products are more innovative so that they do have some degree of competitive edge. The dynamicism, can stimulate competition and innovation throughout the economy as a whole. Yeah, that makes sense. Because if they have a product that's very, very unique and a product that can sell, um, thing is, what can happen then is a big company can invest in the SME for it to become a lot bigger than it actually is. So yeah, dynamicism always important because it's pretty much a key part of innovation. So we're going to talk about what's distinctive about SMEs. Okay, so I'm going to briefly go through these points in terms of what is distinctive about SMEs. And the first is the organizational structure. So your organizational structure for your SME is a flat organizational structure. So this means your owner and your manager can be basically the same person. Different staff members can take on multiple tasks. There's no hierarchy involved. For enterprise dynamicism, if I have to talk a little bit around that, it means that your SMEs basically allow for creativity, flexibility, and innovation. Resource poverty, if I have to speak to that, in general, SMEs may experience limited resource bases in terms of access to capital, external information, and expertise. With restricted internal technical expertise, SMEs may require external assistance regarding IS or IT from consultants, and they would also need vendor support. In terms of external planning, your external environment, SMEs have little or no control over their external environment, and they face pressure from the power of their suppliers and customers. And this results in them being price takers rather than price setters. However, what is important in terms of your SMEs is your relationships with your business partners, customers, and advisors. This is a foundation for a small business. And these relationships are built on trust and familiarity. Business methods that undermine these relationships, disrupt business traditions, and generally your traditional business methods would pretty much fail if you look at small, medium enterprises. They are small businesses based on a certain set of values and of trust. In terms of strategy and planning, the size of the business is important when you are considering strategy and planning. And in general, there is no formal strategic planning process in place for small, medium enterprises in general. Then we come to the importance of the owner or manager. It can be both. The owner can be the manager, or they can be separate. So what is very distinctive about SMEs is that many SME owner managers also weigh personal, domestic, community, and lifestyle factors into their business decision. SME owners or managers exercise direct control over their businesses because they are personally committed and involved. Their business is at the core of their personal and social identity. So basically, they are their business. So their primary goal is to achieve that competitive advantage. Yeah, definitely. Because if we look at the example we looked at earlier, without Fred, there is no Fred footwear. Okay. Basically, the owner is a very, very big part, and that actually what makes small medium enterprises successful, because they have that owner backing. Okay, a lot of the times you would see a lot of small shops or small businesses can fail because sometimes the owner just hires a manager to overlook the business, but the managers themselves are not very personally invested in the business. So SMEs need big owner support for it to be very successful. A lot of the time, the owner would be skilled in whatever field it is of that particular business. So, for example, back to Fred, basically the guy who owns it was focused on shoe designing and fashion for 30 years. So obviously, he was somebody who knew the business quite well. And that's always a very important thing for, I think, pretty much any business. So we're going to now look at SMEs and ITIS drivers. So in terms of this particular section, what we are going to be looking at is the specific context of the adoption of e-business technologies by SMEs. So what are the drivers for this movement? And there are various ones, and I will speak with certain ones with examples. So one would be reducing costs. So it would reduce costs, of course, in terms of your operations, in terms of your purchasing and your sales if you use IT. In terms of market share, avoid losing out on market share. So in terms of these two, I can actually use one example, and that is off the website we looked at in the prior lecture, which was about Fred's Footwear, and they were basically a company in the Eastern Cape that sold men's, children's, and women's footwear. And when we looked at their website, we noticed that they didn't actually allow us to purchase online. And I would think that if that website had the facility for customers to purchase online, and they actually made a plan for those shoes to be delivered anywhere in the country, they could actually avoid losing out on market share, and it would actually eventually reduce costs in terms of their operations, because they would be making a profit, and of course generating more sales. Information gathering, market intelligence, and finding suppliers. So of course IT would be key with this, because you would be able to analyze data a lot better if you had better systems in place. Improved range and quality of products and services to customers. So you could actually even use a third-party website to sell your products. So you've got Takealot, and you could be let's say you are Fred's Footwear. You could be a supplier and have Takealot advertise your goods for them, because Takealot's basically a middleman with various suppliers, and they end up delivering. So it would be a really nice idea for you to pair up with them if you were Fred's Footwear, and you don't have to then handle the supply chain of your good being delivered to them, and you would in fact your overall service would be much better to your customer. Increase speed in the dispatch of goods. So this would obviously make sense, because if Fred's Footwear were doing their own dispatch of goods, from the time the customer does a transaction to the time it's delivered to their door, it would make things a lot easier for the customer to actually purchase their goods, because remember, they are based in the Eastern Cape. So you can only really purchase anything from them if you were there physically. So this would actually give them such a competitive advantage in a way, if they have very high quality footwear. And of course, improved trading relationships between yourself and your supplier if you are a small, medium enterprise. So if we have to look at the flip side, if we had to look at inhibitors for the adoption of IT within your small, medium enterprise, one big factor would be cost. So implementation and ongoing costs, limited financial resources and capital reserves would hold you back in terms of spending on IT. Also, in terms of your management could have insufficient knowledge or expertise with IT, or limited experience. So Fred's Footwear, for example, maybe they would not really know enough in terms of what the supply chain would be if they had to make their website allow customers to purchase online. Maybe they don't have IT staff, maybe it's just the manager or one of the staff that put together the website, and they don't actually have any idea on how to make it an e-business, if you like. So that is one of the inhibitors. Security, so of course, secure concerns about confidentiality and fear of fraud. So this would be a big reason why a lot of SMEs would be deterred from going online, if you like. You have to spend money, a significant amount of money, to make your website secure. So this would, of course, be one of the inhibiting factors. And technology. So with the way technology is, complexity always requires new skills. So your current IT department have to either keep upskilling or you would need to hire new people. Your existing IS or IT infrastructure is very limited in that you only have in-house IT skills, so you might need to hire consultants if you are looking to do something more specialized with your technology. And of course, you might have a lack of trust in external IT suppliers. So yeah, just to go back, as I mentioned, I was talking about technology. An example of this could be, it can be limiting if you want to really spruce up that website, make it look beautiful, but your in-house staff don't have the expertise. Then you'd obviously have to hire a consultant or a web developer, which is going to cost you quite a bit of capital, not just in terms of building the website, but in terms of maintaining the website as well, and make sure that there's no downtime, and there has to be service level agreements, and there's a whole can of worms when it comes to when you introduce technology. Not to say it's a bad thing, but definitely it is an inhibiting factor if you don't have as much capital as, say, your bigger organizations. So emerging technologies adopted by SMEs, we're going to talk through this a little bit. Some of this you already know because you've done it in cloud for the whole of last year. In terms of emerging technologies adopted by SMEs, we are going to first be looking at cloud computing and ASPs. And the drivers for cloud computing basically are with mobile interactive applications, which are required to be constantly available to react in real time to users on non-human sensors and rely on large data sets. So cloud computing would be important for these types of applications. They would also be important for parallel batch processing based on the ability to parallel process large data sets dispersed amongst the cloud. So cloud computing nowadays is really important, not just for your large businesses, but especially for, I would say, your smaller ones. Your small, medium enterprises have limited IT available. So your cloud platforms provide infrastructure. And the reason that you would go for cloud solutions if you're a small, medium enterprise is because they would be providing you with the entire IT infrastructure. And if you don't have the expertise, it is easier to use cloud-based solutions because everything would more or less be done for you in terms of your infrastructure. In terms of Web 2 and mobile technologies, your Web 2, your wireless capabilities have basically offered new opportunities for SMEs to reconfigure business processes and be able to reach out to customers and other key stakeholders. In terms of your supply chain management, it's changed so much over the last, I would say, 10 years. According to your textbook, a survey of 395 US SMEs identified a number of best practices relating to the use of SCM technologies, that is supply chain management technologies. So I'm just going to talk through a few. That is discussion groups, real-time online transactions or chat rooms, email for current and prospective customers, though I don't think email is a new thing, education and training, enhanced company image brands, finding information about competitors. So yes, IT would be very much important for these aspects. Although I'm really really still looking at the email one and think that's not really anything new. But yes, these would be emerging technologies adopted by SMEs. Okay, so yeah, as I said before, I am also going to take a look through your take-home test, take-home exam, and assignment to see if what we've done so far has linked to anything. And we've done this, I think, after pretty much every learning unit so far. So you know your assignment is a case study on Uber. So you guys can now concentrate on it since semester one stuff's over. So IT strategic alignment, we looked at that. Okay, so there we are. You have a car and have been operating in your own capacity as a taxi driver. Elaborate on what makes your business as SME distinctive in the South African economy. So they're calling you as a taxi driver. And yeah, okay, so you are not Uber in this context here. So you are your own, you are Eagle Taxi, you are Mozi Cab, and that's for 15 marks. So you have to justify basically why you are an SME and what makes you distinctive. You can be wonderful and very, very, very creative for this question over here. So if we take a look at take-home exam, consider the following excerpt about a South African SME. Oh, this is pretty much the class activity we're doing today. This could be exactly what you are working towards. WeFix, they seem to love this example. So WeFix has grown into a national brand respected by most experienced Apple, Huawei, Samsung repair servicing providers in South Africa. We have over 11 years experience in device repair with stores nationwide. We have born fixes, we fix phones, tablets, smartwatches, Macs, everything in between. We do it fast and it gets us noticed. Why? Because we love to make it better. That's their website. So list 5 drivers for WeFix adopting IT, and we just went through the drivers for IT in terms of alignment in the slide I just pretty much showed you just now. Discuss how use of cloud computing would benefit WeFix. So, I mean, you guys are cloud experts by now, so this should be easy for you. And okay, they talk about explaining the advantages of outsourcing. So we're going to be doing outsourcing. I think we cover it in the next lecture. So, well, at least these two you guys will be able to happily answer today, as well as the assignment question. And if you take a look at the take-home test, yeah, government to government. So they talk about government to consumer as one form of relationship e-government has established. Identify 3 others. We spoke about that in the last lecture. Evaluate South Africa's national e-government strategy. We've spoken about that too. And yeah, we spoke about the critical success factors in the last lecture. So of a national e-strategy grouped at each level of growth. Identify the level you believe South Africa is on. Justify your choice with reference to a time frame for South Africa's e-government strategy. Suggest 3 critical success factors for South Africa's e-government should focus on. Explain the concept of green IT. We're going to do that in the next lecture. So far, you guys will be able to answer that. We've covered that last week, actually. So great. you guys are ready pretty much to answer those questions. But before we do that, guys are gonna go to VC Learn, go to more resources. You should see Learning Unit 4 Activity 2. So in this activity, you will examine the use of technology in an SME or small medium enterprise. So review the services provided by this SME, which is the same one in your take-home exam, right? WeFix. You're going to pay attention to the availability and use of online transactions, the drivers and inhibitors faced by the SME. So basically, if you guys do this question, this activity now, you've already answered one question in your exam. Emerging technologies that the SME could exploit in the future. So basically, you're going to click on this, create a thread, and describe the services and transactions that can be completed by customers, discuss the drivers inhibited, recommend specific emerging technologies that you believe the SME could exploit to improve their efficiency and effectiveness. So, should I give you guys 20 minutes to do that?
Yeah, we should be good.
Okay, cool. So 20 minutes and we will then discuss.